consumers on the importance of organic farming and the dangers of harmful additives in food products. Clark's mission is to inspire positive change in both personal health choices and industry standards, driving the movement toward cleaner, more responsible food production. Ms. Clark.
Thank you, Senator. My average listener, like me, is a woman in her late 20s and early 30s, and we demand accountability for how the millennial generation was turned into a science experiment without our informed consent for the sake of enriching big pharma, big ag, and big food. Millennial women have started to have kids for the first time, and they are disillusioned with how hard it has become to not only get pregnant, but also raise kids who are healthy, happy, and mentally well. Today, I am proud to represent them. The poisoning of our food and the environment is the issue for these independent women. It is devastating us and our children. My name is Alex Clark, and I host Culture Apothecary. By virtually every measure, millennials are more health conscious than any generation before us, but at the same time, we are also the sickest. That is, until our children end up surpassing us. The next generation of children is predicted to not outlive their parents if we continue on the trajectory that we are currently on. When in human history has that ever been the case? We are fatter than any prior generation at this age. We're having more fertility issues. New cancer diagnoses in the U.S. are projected to top 2 million for the first time this year, and these new cases are almost all driven by young people. This is according to American Cancer Society data. What happened? Growing up, millennials were handed health advice that was inaccurate, mistaken, or downright fabricated. Almost everything that we were taught about food and health was made up. The only guidance that we received on what to eat came in 1992 via the food pyramid, a completely manipulated work of fake public health crafted by the Department of Agriculture. The food pyramid told us that all fat was bad, a lie. It told us to make complex carbs like pasta, bread, and processed breakfast cereal the bedrock of our diet, not because it was healthy, but because that was the most profitable recommendation for big ag and big food. We became the first generation subjected to sugary, fattening, inflammatory foods deliberately engineered to be as addictive as heroin, thanks to the food companies buying the scientists from the cigarette companies for that exact purpose. In the 80s and 90s, the same era as the food pyramid scam, youth obesity tripled from 5% to 15%. Today, in 2024, close to half of all American kids are overweight or obese. Now, why are you surprised? Ultra-processed foods make up 70% of the calories that kids eat now. Now, most of us millennial girls got our first period when we were 13 to 15 years old. Pediatricians wasted no time telling us that there was a magic pill that could solve all of our problems in a 10-minute wellness checkup with no informed consent about the risks or side effects. What problems were we solving exactly? A couple pimples. We were advised to not worry about learning to track our cycle or understand our hormones. No conversation about how our likelihood to experience anxiety or depression would increase by 80% on the pill. "10 to 15 years went by on the hormonal birth control pill. We stayed on the pill because no one advised us it was only ever supposed to be taken temporarily. Then we wanted to have children. We got off birth control for the first time in our adult lives, only to discover that we had major fertility issues that the hormonal birth control hid. Infertility is going up 1% every year. Suddenly, starting a family means spending tens of thousands of dollars on IVF and other fertility treatments because even more medical interventions are always the first solution rather than addressing the root causes of the problem. If the IVF even works, millennial moms are seeing the same drama play out for their own children, but on a far greater scale. They want to raise healthy kids, they do. But where can they go for info? The studies are bought and paid for by the food companies. They look for unbiased info on the news, but that's funded by Big Pharma. In 2022, the pharmaceutical industry spent an average of $1 billion per month on advertising in the United States. What news company is going to risk reporting the truth if it means missing out on advertising dollars like that? Their pediatrician, these moms' pediatrician, had less than a day of nutrition training in all their years of medical school. They don't even know what seed oils are when they ask about them. If one of my listeners has a child today, there is a 1 in 50 chance that child will have a deadly peanut allergy, 4 times what it was just a few decades ago. And that rate is rising. Children today are about 20% more likely to develop type 1 diabetes than they were 20 years ago. Childhood cancer rates are rising a percentage point every year. Asthma is up, so is ADHD, allergies, virtually every type of psychological disorder. In 1980, autism was diagnosed at a rate of just 3 or 4 per 100,000 kids. Today, a newborn child has a 1 in 36 chance that he or she will be autistic. And that rate is also rising every year. Who cares about politics if the next generation is dead or close to it before they can even vote? In 1985, newborn millennials had to follow a schedule of just a handful of vaccines. Today, a child following the recommended vaccine schedule will receive up to 70 shots by the time they turn 18, including 27 before he or she turns 2, and as many as 6 shots in a single visit. Are all these shots producing healthier kids? According to the data, no. Are we allowed to even ask? Also, no. Some parents who've asked too many questions about the recommended vaccine schedule can find themselves reported to Child Protection Services. Or they will get kicked out of their pediatrician's office for not being compliant. This is America, the land of the free. Parents are being held hostage. They did not sign up to co-parent with the government. We want a divorce. But there's more. Remember when I said that my generation had our first period at 13 or 15? Today, little girls are starting their periods at 8 or 9, and they are getting pubic hair as young as 5 or 6. Is it their drinking water, their food, chemicals, and personal care products that other countries have banned? Don't ask, don't tell. Girls are still being pressured to get on birth control, by the way, without informed consent, but now they get the added bonus of an antidepressant to go with it. 2 for 1 special. Just to reiterate the war on moms in this country, today, virtually everything a child eats or drinks will be served on a plastic plate, in a plastic bottle, or be eaten from a plastic container with plastic utensils. Human breast milk now contains thousands of microplastics. If you need formula, you can't find it without inflammatory seed oils or soy. Parents have to order it and buy it from Europe. Does this all seem overwhelming to you? Good. This is what the American mom deals with every day.
Amen.
The typical American parent today has to worry about a job, about their children's education, about all the things that a parent has always had to worry about. They shouldn't also have to deal with the added stress of finding the poison that lurks in almost everything their child eats or drinks. The American dream is that a parent will be able to raise children who are better off than themselves. But now that dream is vanishing, not just on an economic level, but a biological one. Unless we break this spiral, we will fall into a death spiral of unhealthy parents raising even more unhealthy kids that will bankrupt this country. As RFK Jr. has said, The last thing standing between a child and an industry full of corruption is a mom. Let's make it easier for them.
Okay, so we have the room for another half hour. All the presenters have made their statements. We've asked some questions. Yeah, generally in hearings, I've generally let panelists, if you've got one